So I just finished resealing this engine, getting everything done, taken care of, all new gaskets, RTV, everything, everywhere. Got a new set of injectors coming, but the reason we did all that is hopefully we'll be able to throw that engine here into our convertible. So far, we really haven't checked this thing out since we bought it, other than we threw this on to protect it from the rain, and we actually just took this off earlier. It took me a minute to figure out how to get it off. It was actually hung up on one latch, and I figured out how to pop the latch and take it off. In the last video, when we picked this thing up, we found this passenger cowl. There's a shifter bezel here. It's got broken tabs on the top, but you can always fix that. That's not too hard. Got a couple just good assorted parts here chilling in the back. So now, pretty much, we're going to clean all this stuff out and get it to where we can make a decision where we attack this car first and start working. Super nice seats. This is really the only downside. Other than that, I mean, interior is pretty nice. It's the velour. Car's got 163,000, so I think it's time that we go through, check this thing out, and we see kind of what the body's looking like, and so we know where we go with this thing. Do we part this thing out, or do we get it all built back up? I think the first thing I'm going to check that I do recall looking at are pinch welds. The fender is actually bolted on to the pinch welds, and it's not damaged. That is excellent. So far it looks like just this spot back here is folded over, and right here, kind of by where it's welded together, this should be no problem to pull back out and straighten up. Other than that, this rail looks like it's been jacked up a couple times, and the front of this rail actually doesn't look bad. We'll have to lift it up, see if it's rusty, but really that's feeling really nice, very sturdy. And really the front's not damaged, just the rear part of the rail is jacked up a little bit. Let's see if we see anything with the radiator support. Radiator support looks pretty good. I mean, yeah, it looks like it's been lifted right here in the middle once, but it definitely does not look to be enough to change the gaps up here across the hood. When the hood's shut, it does stick up over here a little bit more. This is actually down. That could be from the adjuster bushings. To the passenger side pinch weld. Looks good up there. Oh wow, this passenger side is perfect. Wow. Got a little bit of damage right here. Maybe someone ran something over, hit something. Not too big of a deal. I'm sure a stud gun could pull all that out. Frame rail looks good over here too. I don't see, it doesn't look too bent and damaged anywhere. So far it's looking like this car is going to be a save car. There's no point in trashing this thing if it has like literally the perfect bones to it. As much as I may be able to get out of it, I don't think it's plausible. Now for the final part. Let's look underneath the rear. See a little bit of damage here. Looks like the car's been rear-ended at some point. Frame rail. Looks like it's got some surface rust. Nothing too crazy. Same over here, a little bit of surface crust. Both these subframe bushings are blown, but it actually looks like the shock over there is blown too. It's soaking wet compared to over here. So now that we see that, the interior is pretty solid. It's kind of, I'd like to, you know, maybe keep this thing all together. My only dilemma is the top. There's no top on it. I've got a top frame back here. I don't think everything's there. I also don't know if I know how all this stuff goes together. Maybe we can figure it out, fingers crossed. I did find that you can actually get new convertible tops still, and I could have a shop put it on, and that would run me up like $1,000–1,500 at most. So we may be able to save the top on this. We just got to find a way for some new seals. If that subframe becomes too much of an issue, we have a literal dropout right here that we can swap and put in, but we'll see about that. This one's not in crazy good condition, but I don't know. So many decisions. But enough of the chit chat. Let's start pulling some stuff out of this. Let's see what all parts we have, line them up over here, and kind of get an idea of what we're working with. What? What is this crap? We got a thermostat, and we have got some paper towel for a mat. Some new tech. There we go. Except I noticed I've got one pain in the butt here. It's actually stripped, so we have to pry on this tab while we unscrew it to release it. If not, drill it, cut it, or just break it off. This bumper seems to be less than favorable in many ways anyways. Now we've got some more tools. Pretty much our goal is to take off everything we need to remove so that way we can pull the engine. So pretty much almost everything is done up here. I need to check to see if the AC system is pressurized, which I believe it is. So that means we're gonna have to disconnect the compressor. So maybe we can keep AC in here. We're actually gonna disconnect the power steering pump itself and drop it out the way, just like the AC compressor. Pull this incredibly stuck intake pipe out. I've never had one that seized. Oh, that's not good. Appears something was living in here. Ugh. Perfect. Let's go ahead and start pulling each of our wiring harness connections and this. Alright, so we've got almost everything off. I couldn't just keep going because I found too many things that I wanted to show you guys. First of all, someone's got the completely wrong connector plugged into this NOx sensor, which is actually a corny NOx sensor relocation. It's supposed to be down between the lower intake manifold, and they relocated all the way up here. Not only that, we have the VTC over here running straight over here, and it's literally just tied into this harness, which is actually the NOx sensor harness. So that is absolutely comical. They don't have an idle air valve right here. That whole air regulator is missing. This car is giving me vibes of my very first Z, and let's just say it didn't run very long. I'm really hoping this engine is still in good condition. Also, sorry about the mowing, can't help it. It's just finally time. But pull our heater core lines, our little 8 mils right back here, and fish the rest of this wiring harness out of the way. Then maybe we can jack this thing up in the air and start doing things underneath. Well, we've now got it all up on blocks to where we can get underneath of it. However, I don't think we're going to do much of that today. Just took my dog on her first swim because we're actually draining our pool out back there. And I went for my last swim, and safe to say, she loved it. She kept wanting to get back in, and I'm not really sure how we're going to get this top back on. We may just use the tarp to try to secure this for the night, because it never, I don't know, it never really sat down, and it takes a lot of pressure. So we'll catch you guys tomorrow, bright and early, when we can start working on this thing and try to pull the transmission out of it. Well, it's the next day, and we've kind of got to work already. All we've done is we've got started on our exhaust manifolds, and since we're down here, we actually got to look at the bottom side of the car, and this car looks better than any other car I've ever owned. Yeah, it's got like surface rust and stuff down here and whatnot, especially back here on the rear, but since really it's all just surface rust, what I think I'm gonna do, I have a nice subframe right there that I could swap for all this. Bam, done right there. Take like a wire brush and I could grind and like brush all this off, get it to a nice surface. Then I could spray, convert it, paint over it, then I could undercoat this entire body. And then we could get it all looking fresh again, and then really try to see, maybe we can just do more to it and go through and make sure it needs absolutely nothing. Maybe then we could get a better return from this car and kind of take up to the next level of what we're doing around here. I've still been keeping in the back of my mind about turbo swapping this thing, but that's going to be a lot of extra work. So it's always a possibility. We may just try to keep it manual swapped and refreshing it. Well, that makes 6. We have managed to get all 6 of our manifold studs snapped off. So now we're going to start working on the rest of the exhaust system so we can get to the drive line to start pulling this thing out. I already went and took a couple bell housing bolts out of the transmission while I was down here, and the starter is off. There we go. They're both loose. Look at all the rust that came off. Well, we have finally managed to get this crusty exhaust off. Got the center section. We only managed to break 1 bolt. It was totally seized. We broke 1 bolt here for the exhaust hanger system, and so far we've broken 1 towards our heat shield. So since we've had all of them mishaps, we just went, sprayed all of the rest of the dust shield with the PBO blaster, and we also sprayed the 4 bolts going from our drive shaft to our rear end. Hopefully this will make them easier to come out. So far the underside of this, the body itself is nice, but like all the bolts and stuff and subframes, arms, all that, it's a little crusty. So before we really pull the trigger on saying that we're going to restore this whole thing, we're going to post it up for sale when we're done, see if it sells. We're just going to get it running good and whatnot before we say take the engine and everything back out, all the drivetrain, subframes, and really get down and restore this thing. Now that the drive shaft is out, let's go ahead and begin the waterfalls. Maybe. Wow. This auto trans has no trans mount and it has not moved at all. I guess I'm going to try to unbolt these tranny lines so I can kind of pull them out the way, hopefully. Or we'll have to remove them from here. Auto transmissions are such a pain in the butt. Oh, we're almost up into the barn and we started leaking. Now we have got the Z pulled in here with all the lights that I've got, and we've got nearly everything ready to go. What we do need to do still is unhook our AC compressor. That shouldn't be a big deal. Once we start to lift the engine out, that'll be our first priority. I actually still have the transmission hooked up. Don't know if this is going to be a bad idea. I used to do this all the time, but I'm really not trying to fight all the transmission lines and whatnot, so fingers crossed. We have got the AC compressor off. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Would you look what we got out? Ugh. It's a heavy one. Psych. We're not going down too fast. I'm actually going to try to save this pan. Some Z's don't come with a drain pan on the transmission or auto trans pan, so I think someone may like that or want it. So we're going to make sure to keep it nice because that thing looks brand new. I think we're about to take the convertible on its first drive here. I think it's probably a good idea to shut this hood first. Not saying I've had hoods flop down, not doing that, but I have. Oh, I have to admit, I'm gonna love this when I get it done. This is a really cool feeling. Oh wow, this e-brake is excellent. let's get this thing all covered up with the tarp and close up shop. Well, it's the next day and we're out here bright and early, and I went ahead, popped the hood, and we started looking around just to see if we need to order a couple things before I place my order on Z1 and Rock Auto today, because I've got quite the extensive list of a bunch of different things I've been looking at. And well, let's just say we can see some rack bushings totally disintegrated here. I do see quite a bit of things we can remove. I'm not sure if we're going to power wash yet. That's a big possibility because of all of this, but I honestly haven't hooked my power washer up since last year, so we'll see if it still works. We ended up getting a Harbor Freight special. So other than that, we really need to replace this because we've seen our alternator was completely gunked up, unlike anything I've ever seen. We're also going to pull some of our airbox stuff off and get rid of all that mouse stuff, which that may be the whole system and whatnot, because but I did just get a message from one of my card companies wondering why my card wasn't working today. Now it completely makes sense. Apparently my bank was breached and my account is now shut down, and since one of these cards takes like a week to pull the payment out, of course it happens after my account's shut down. So luckily it's Saturday and they're open for an hour, so let's go take care of some errands and start to pull and clean some junk off this thing. So we have got pretty much all of the front end taken out. AC condenser fan, our fender liners, front fender liner, carbon canister has been deleted, all intake associated stuff, and pretty much got all this cleared up and cleaned up. Right now I'm having the dilemma, do we just strip all the AC stuff out so I can replace the wiring harness and make things easier on myself to make a really nice harness to go with the rest of this car, or do I just try to leave it as is until we come back to do all that? Trans separated from the engine, now we've got it moved back here. Just have to change up pace. Let's see what this thing is looking like underneath. One thing I gotta say, these pink valve covers need to go away. They literally just sprayed this crap, man. Why? Valves look good. Pretty clean. Nothing crazy. So I think we're, I don't know, so far so good. It's just someone's went paint crazy on this thing. Now we have fuel injector and rail installed with new lower seats to our engine. Unfortunately, we didn't use the new style ones that I had all pulled out right here, because I only had 4 of these caps in the kit instead of all 6. No, I guess I confused myself on that one. For some reason I thought this was converted because this is a 93 vert. However, it has a 94 engine, so it doesn't have old style fuel rails. Oh well, that means we can at least still have these for this rail, so we have a plug and play ready for it already. And we actually found a really nice set of 6 injectors here that we use. None of them have any corrosion. They have nice colored injector plastics. I think we're going to be pretty good to go. Grabbed another PCV hose. Got a couple more things to get together. We also got a crank pulley on and got top dead center marked, so it'll be easier to read to time. Let's go ahead, throw a fan on, see if we can find an alternator or power steering pump, and maybe a plenum that we can clean up. I just went and cleaned out this hose, which was kind of shaped like this on both sides, and we used it here with 2 hose clamps. I don't really mind the bend. If it pressurizes, it's just going to move out a little bit, but the water flow does not matter whatsoever. And then I got to go installing this, and I looked at it, and we're going from here to here, and I was like, wow, what more perfect of a bypass hose could you want? It literally goes from there to there. That's the way things work out sometimes. Now the hose is on, and I think it's time to sit our plenum on. We're going to make sure our mating surface is nice and clean, which we probably have a little bit of work to do. And we're gonna grab us a new gasket, because I do have a couple OEM ones hanging up over here. Start bringing this thing back together. Now we have got our plenum on. It's all torqued down. All of our coil packs in, engine fan or clutch fan on. Got a little bit of stuff routed back here, kind of where we want it to go. Now we just got to get some seals for the balance tube and stuff, but we're not going to worry about that until it goes in the car, because I'm not going to lose another set of them freaking O-rings. That drives me insane, and they're really expensive for what they are. 10 bucks for 3 little O-rings. But we're going to try to find us some hoses for here, and another idle air hose up here. We got this side on. We have a brake booster hose coming in the mail. That should be here within the next couple days, along with our clutch line and a couple other things to get that all situated for this car, and even my slick top. So far so good. Let's see if we can find some hoses and get this thing all finished up, so then we can really just move on to only worry about the chassis side, because I do have a clutch coming in for this too. Since this is all new, I don't want to put my used clutch on it over here. Well, we've got pretty much everything done on the engine now. We have taken quite a bit of time to find the parts that we need. However, we did find us a good power steering pump, and we got us an alternator all cleaned up. However, I did find one last piece that we have forgotten about that we really don't want to forget about. That would be our EGR delete. A little plug you can get, thread it here into your exhaust port, and cap that off. Also, got us our dust shield for our manual transmission installed as well. So we're ready for a flywheel and a clutch. I have to look for a flywheel still. I know I've got one around here somewhere, but I guess it does pay off in the end when you take the extra time to make everything clean. The plenum could use a little bit of work, but nonetheless, yeah, the red cover, just ignore that. Cleaned up that alternator pretty well compared to what it was. Yeah, I'm pretty pleased here. So, I guess that's all that really matters. Got a couple belts and stuff that should be here within the next day or two, so we can get the rest of this thing fully put together. And our next step will be cleaning the bay and getting all that stuff finished so we can drop the motor. We still have to do our clutch system, and I want to try to power wash. That means we have to pull the car up to the house so I can clean all the grease and stuff out of the bay. I think that'll just be way more efficient, and because that's all the rags I have left, towels or whatever. Can't really do it all by hand, and that'll take forever. I think that's going to be it for this video. This will set us up pretty good to start getting everything else plugged away with this thing and get it together for our little mini car show that we're going to have. We'll explain that more in the next video. But with that being said, you guys, if you guys like the video, don't forget to drop a like, comment, subscribe down below, and stay tuned for our next one, and we'll catch you then. Peace.